$21 billion. That's how much Anthropic just committed to Google's TPUs. To put that in perspective, it's larger than the entire annual semiconductor budget of most countries on Earth. And the company making this call? Not Google, not Meta, not Microsoft. Anthropic, the AI safety lab that's supposed to be the careful one. So why did Anthropic choose Google's custom silicon over the GPU that has powered almost every major AI breakthrough of the last decade? And what does it actually mean for NVIDIA? That's what we're covering today. Let's start with what actually happened, because the headlines got some of it wrong. This isn't just Anthropic buying more cloud compute from Google. The structure matters. Broadcom, not Google, co-designs the TPU chips themselves. Google is the customer for the silicon. Broadcom is the actual chip architect. Anthropic has committed to using this compute infrastructure through 2026. The $21 billion figure represents the estimated total value of that compute capacity. Reserved, dedicated GPU-equivalent resources running on Google's TPU infrastructure. And here's the part that the business press missed entirely. The reason Anthropic chose this path has almost nothing to do with geopolitics or marketing. It comes down to three reasons. And the first one is brutally boring. Reason number one, cost per token. For training a new AI model, the phase where you're throwing massive compute at billions of examples, NVIDIA's H100s and A100s are still the gold standard. The ecosystem is mature. The tools work. The performance is validated. But here's the thing most people don't think about. Once a model like Claude is trained, the majority of ongoing compute isn't training. It's inference. Every single time you send a message to Claude, that's an inference call. Multiply that by millions of users, and inference isn't an afterthought. Inference is the business. For steady-state inference workloads, meaning running the same types of tasks repeatedly at scale, Google's TPUs are 30 to 50% cheaper per token than equivalent NVIDIA hardware. For Anthropic, inference cost isn't just an operational expense. It's gross margin. Every dollar saved per token goes directly to the bottom line, or lets them drop prices to compete with OpenAI and Gemini. This is the unsexy real reason, not a geopolitical statement, not a bet against NVIDIA, just math. Reason number two is the part almost no tech coverage got right. You've probably heard the criticism, TPUs are hard to use. And historically, that was true for PyTorch shops. Here's the thing. Most AI companies, including OpenAI, Meta, Mistral, built their stacks on PyTorch. And PyTorch was designed around NVIDIA's CUDA programming model. Moving those shops to TPUs would be a massive re-engineering effort. But Anthropic was different from day one. The founders came largely from Google Brain. And Google Brain runs on JAX, Google's own machine learning framework that was built to run on TPUs. When Anthropic says TPUs just work for us, they're not being contrarian. Their entire research and production stack is already JAX-native. TPUs aren't a compromise. They're actually the path of least resistance. CUDA gives you low-level GPU control. XLA, the compiler JAX uses, gives you the same level of control on TPUs, and it compiles JAX code directly to TPU hardware with minimal friction. The performance numbers for inference on TPU v5 versus the H100 are within single-digit percentages for the types of transformer workloads Claude runs. And at Anthropic's scale, a 40% cost advantage that comes with no engineering overhead is an obvious call. Reason 3. And this one is about survival. Right now, NVIDIA has roughly 70 to 80% of the AI accelerator market. For frontier AI labs, that's not just a procurement issue. It's an existential dependency. If NVIDIA hits a supply constraint, which they did in 2023, if export controls tighten, which they did in 2024, if pricing power shifts, which it already has for H100s, a lab running entirely on NVIDIA hardware has no leverage. Multi-vendor compute is now an existential strategy for frontier labs, not a luxury. OpenAI has its own custom silicon project inside Microsoft's Azure. Meta designed MTIA. Amazon built Trainium. Anthropic is making the same move, just doing it through Google's supply chain instead of building from scratch. For a company whose mission is the responsible development of AI, becoming dangerously dependent on a single hardware vendor is itself a risk. This deal is partly about the balance sheet, and partly about not having your entire operation held hostage to one company's production schedule. So, is NVIDIA toast? No. And anyone telling you otherwise is either being sensational or selling something. NVIDIA still owns the training market. Period. When labs need to train the next model, GPT-6, Claude 4, Gemini Ultra 3, they're still reaching for H100s and B200s. The CUDA ecosystem, the tooling, the developer familiarity, that flywheel does not stop spinning overnight. What this deal does confirm is a structural ceiling on NVIDIA's inference dominance. Hyperscalers, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, are all routing steady-state inference to custom silicon when they can. NVIDIA knew this was coming. It's why they're investing in inference optimization and NIM microservices. The monopoly narrative, the idea that NVIDIA wins everything, everywhere, forever, that's dead. What we have now is a bifurcated market. NVIDIA dominates training and frontier development. Custom silicon eats inference at scale. That's not catastrophic for NVIDIA. It's just reality. Quick note before we talk stocks, this is not financial advice. Understand the dynamics. Make your own calls. With that said, the most obvious winner here is Broadcom, ticker AVGO. Broadcom co-designs the TPU. More TPU demand means more Broadcom revenue. They already have massive exposure to the AI custom silicon wave. And this deal adds another long-term anchor customer to that side of their business. The second wave of winners, the TPU supply chain. Custom silicon requires high-bandwidth interconnects. Optical networking names like Coherent and Lumentum get a re-rating when TPU volume scales. Celestica and similar contract manufacturers also benefit from expanded Google data center buildouts. As for NVIDIA, this doesn't break them. But the buy NVIDIA at any price because AI equals NVIDIA thesis has a dent in it. The total addressable market is now shared. Investors who priced in monopoly-level margins should revisit that model. And AMD, they're still fighting for the training slice. Custom silicon took a bite. But the GPU market is still growing fast enough that AMD has room to run if they execute. So that's the Anthropic TPU story. The boring version, which is the true version. Cost, software fit, and strategic survival, not ideology. In the next video, we're going deeper. Here's who actually wins the GPU versus TPU war. We'll look at total cost of ownership models, where NVIDIA's moat is defensible and where it's already eroding, and what the smart money is actually watching. If you found this useful, subscribe. The bell actually helps independent channels. And if you disagree with any of this analysis, drop it in the comments. I read them. See you next time.